Hey everyone, it's Jerry at the Fledge. Welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. Today we have a good friend of ours, Mr. Nick Leydorf is on screen here for Every Damn Day. How you doing today,
Hey,
Nick?
good, great, Jerry. Thanks for having me. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
you're welcome. I'm excited to uh, have you on the show. I had to ask you, which project you wanted to talk about because we've done. Well, I know you have a career, and then we've done comedy together, and
Yeah,
I think you've even helped with some of the fundraisers that we've
yep,
done.
yeah,
Uh, so we decided to go with estate planning today, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I did get to tweet estate planning and comedy in the same tweet.
All
So I
right.
thought that was great.
Thanks.
So, why don't you, instead of me rambling, you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your practice?
Yeah, thanks. So I've been a lawyer for 14 years, and still doing it. And it's one of those things where I've kind of had an evolution over the last few years where I started out doing litigation, which is like going to court every day, and it's a huge just grind on you, and it's like going to like you're going to war every day. It's just nonstop, like just really negative people that you're dealing with, and after so long, it just like really wore on me, and I decided I gotta do something else because I'm not gonna be able to continue to keep this up. So I had a family member that a little while ago, she was my mother-in-law. We got a call after Christmas one day, and she was in the hospital in a coma. Um, and unfortunately, she never woke up, and she had a infection that had built up over her body through a replacement surgery for a shoulder over a number of years, and she never knew anything about it. And then just one day, her body just said, "This we can't sustain it anymore," and she passed out, and she never woke up again. And through doing that, and she had no estate plan or any will or anything like that, and so I had to kind of help my father-in-law kind of deal with the aftermath of all this, and it was just a huge undertaking because we had to probate an estate in Kent County, Michigan. So we live in Lansing, and so it was over an hour driving back and forth. And even when she was in the hospital for a couple of weeks, we're just driving back and forth, and she really left no kind of instructions for us. And so I kind of really got to this point where like, if I'm a lawyer and this is difficult for me, like what's the average person with no legal training, have to deal with this without some help. And so I'm like, how can I learn to do this, and how can I learn to help people so that they don't have to go through what we had to go through, because it was just absolutely devastating. And yeah, so I've kind of transitioned my whole practice in the last couple of years to from litigation and criminal defense to helping people prevent what kind of happened with my mother-in-law. And so
Uh-huh.
that's what I do, and that's what I love to do. So yeah,
So, first of all, I'm sorry that happened to your mother-in-law,
thanks.
your family, and yourself.
Yeah,
That, yeah, that doesn't sound like that's fun either.
no,
There's so many things that you just gave me to ask you about.
yeah.
Are you from Lansing? Are
I'm
you?
from Bannister, Michigan. So like about 100 people north. I went to Ovid-Elsie High School, so right in the middle of cornfield. That's where I went to high school at. But yeah,
Yeah. I've seen your comedy act too,
yeah,
so I
thanks.
know I know a lot about you. So I
Yeah,
might be asking you questions about
yeah,
milk
for
or
sure.
something. I don't know.
Yep.
Is that right? You're a milk expert?
No,
Is that?
no. One of my buddies is though. But yeah, yeah, Dairy Festival. We did that every year. That's the big thing in Elsie is like the Dairy Festival. So
Yeah.
yeah, I grew up in a really small town, and it really helped. I mean, it helped me a lot. Like just really hardworking people, and I grew up in a trailer. I mean, I grew up in like a mobile home, and um, yeah, it was tough, but we just
I think everyone in the city thinks all you people in the country are rich, right? You got
oh
big
yeah, no,
farmhouses
that was
and
not the case at all.
yeah.
No, no. Yeah, that's not the case. Nope.
So it's interesting to me, being the litigator.
Nope.
Yeah, you were defending people often. Is
Yeah.
that
Yep.
and was that just full of trauma? I mean, did you just see
Yeah.
heartbreak after heartbreak?
Yeah. There's no winners in any of that. I mean, it's just being surrounded by just constant negative, just everything. I mean, like, my wife's a Reiki practitioner, so I wasn't really raised with anything like that, like energy work and different things like that. But she really turned me on to like how that's affecting you, and like it really does. I mean, like just being surrounded by, if someone gets arrested, they commit a crime, it doesn't only affect the people that are the direct people. Like if someone steals a car, like it affects the person that steals the car, it affects the person that stole the car. But then there's just all these other people that are just collateral damage, like the family, like of the person that gets arrested. All kinds of stuff is just negative stuff constantly. So it's these. So you're trying to fix a situation that doesn't really always have a puzzle piece to fix it with. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's just a really hard thing about that part of the job.
Did you see a lot of injustice? Did you think it was sort of balanced, or what
Um,
was your take on that? If you don't mind, you
oh
don't
yeah,
have
for
to
sure. I'm
answer.
talk about anything. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of injustice that happens every day, and it's stuff that people involved in the system don't really think about too much. And that's kind of what one of the problems is you kind of have to take a step back and figure out, like, I sat on an arraignment one time, which arraignment's like a first appearance for people that get charged with a crime. So they tell you like what you're charged with. And I was in this county, up north, and there was a gentleman that showed up with a lawyer, and he was charged with driving on a suspended license. Um, Nothing really major, but this county liked to make it like really like a huge deal. And so this guy, he's a white guy. He gets a bond of like, I think it was like $100 or something like that, that he had to pay to continue to stay out. Somebody that was in the same situation, actually less of a criminal record than the white person, had to pay a bond that was, I think it was like $250, $300. And you sit there and it's just like, how does this even happen? Because they're the two people there, and the only thing that's different about them is that one's white, one's Hispanic, and that's the kind of stuff that you see on a regular basis. And it's you see police officers that lie. I mean, and that's yeah, it bothers you. I mean, it's easy to be somebody that, I support police officers and things like that. When you're not in the system, you're not seeing what happens. A police officer can really devastate somebody's life if they want to, and that's a tremendous amount of power. And I've been involved in cases where the police have lied, and I was able to get definitive proof of it. And that it doesn't make you feel good to like want to, because it doesn't change it. It doesn't change the situation. Like I've been able to win cases on stuff like that, but it's like this person's not going to be held accountable. I mean, like
Yeah.
they're not going to be held accountable for lying, for getting someone arrested on a felony charge. We went all the way to a jury trial, and we won after about 15 minutes of deliberations. I was pretty blown away by that. Found this guy not guilty for, I put air quotes, assaulting a police officer, and it wasn't even true. And that officer, I learned after that, was still working somewhere else. And it's just such a, you get into this, everyday system of things happening to people, not a lot of accountability. And, what do? You just kind of try and do your job as best you can and try and point out some of the stuff when you notice it. And yeah, it's hard. It's hard to be involved in that. But,
Like I was saying, I heard your comedy act before. I
yeah,
know that you're on the right side of justice. I've
thanks.
always thought that about you,
Thanks.
and loved working with you guys
Yeah.
in
Same
that
here.
regard. So now you have that trauma, but now you go into estate planning.
Yeah.
How close, when people start thinking about estate planning, is it
Yep.
usually in that situation that you were in, or
Um,
is it the 22-year-old that just graduated from college
yeah, I
who's
mean,
going to live forever?
I wish. I mean, that's one of the huge challenges in what I'm doing, and it's something completely different in terms of like just from a marketing perspective of like from criminal defense to estate planning. Criminal defense is like there's an urgent need, someone needs to fill it now, and they need to find somebody good enough and that they can get help now. With estate planning, a lot of people don't even think that that's an issue. Like, so I have to not only the biggest thing is just trying to educate people about why it's important. And most people don't ever really get that. I mean, like, because right now, I mean, I just checked the last study that I saw was only six out of 10 people. 6 out of 10 people don't have an estate plan, so that like any kind of documents like whatsoever. So only 4 out of 10 do, and that kind of puts them in the same kind of situation that my mother-in-law was. I mean, it doesn't always have to be some sort of tragic thing. Like people can just pass away and they go at their at a, I guess what you'd say, a reasonable time, but then there's all these things that they're leave behind that other people kind of have to pick up the pieces and the fix and things, and that's one of the challenges, is just trying to educate people that like you may not think you need anything like this, but it's something that if you want to stay out of courts, you really need to do stuff like estate planning. I mean, like
It it
yeah.
it sounds like a rich person's problem.
Yeah,
Like I have to have this estate. Like what
no,
the
you
hell's
don't.
an
That's
estate?
part of that's why I call it estate planning, just because that's some people know about that, but it's really someone picked that term and it's not a great term. So the estate's not like, it's just borrowing like a term of like your probate estate. Like everyone, if you die without a will, you have what's called like a probate estate. So the term estate planning is like really bad. You've got to come up with something different, but it's basically just like getting your shit together. That's basically what it is. Like being an adult, like like just making sure that you take care of yourself and your family, and you keep them out of court and you keep them out of conflict. That's basically all that it really is. But it makes it way more condensed if you can find some 2-word. But at this point, estate planning is all we got right now. So that's another thing we have to try and educate people and fix is what the messaging is, and what the brand, how we make this important to somebody, because it really is.
So my wife and I just exchanged passwords to all of our accounts, and she knows where all my crypto is.
Yeah.
And that's about the extent of our estate plan. We should probably do better, huh?
Well, yeah, you can, and it's funny you mentioned that. Like, I shared an article last week about this guy from Canada that had one of the largest cryptocurrency like holdings like ever. He had like over $400 million, and he was in his 30s, and he went to India, got sick, died, and no one had any idea how to get into any of his stuff. And I didn't follow up and see what happened with that, but that caused a huge thing. So yeah, you're ahead of that, which is good. But yeah, there's some other stuff, just general things that people can do. Like sometimes even just writing some things down for people, having everything in one place so everyone really knows where your stuff's at. A will is a really basic thing. You can create a trust. Trusts are not for the rich anymore. They're really accessible for people, and it's a really easy way to have everything in one place, and it's very easy to turn over ownership from you to who you want to go to without any kind of judge or court or anything telling you what to do with it. You can do whatever you want. You can name it whatever you want. You can call it Millennium Falcon or whatever it is you want to call it. And it's really an easy way to just transition everything. Instead of having to go to court and wait 6 or 8 months and pay filing fees, all kinds of different things like that, and they take a portion of your estate. You can create a trust with a lawyer, and it can be all the ownership can be handed over right by signing some paperwork with the lawyer after you passed, and it's an easy way of transitioning everything. There's also things like having powers of attorney. So if you get sick and you can't make the decisions anymore, like one thing, like, using the story of my mother-in-law. So if my mother-in-law had, she was in a coma for a couple weeks, and we didn't really know what to do. I mean, she's got like bills, piling up. We couldn't write checks for her. We couldn't pay her rent. We couldn't do all these kinds of things. If we had things like a power of attorney, all we'd have to do is we would have access to all these things, and we could take care of, her rent, her, different things. Because at that point we didn't know what was going to happen. So we kind of had to, plan for different things. Also, just like you and your wife did, we can give access to digital assets as well. So you can give them access to, your, like me, I've got something in Robinhood and some other stuff too. And like, so I can give all the access to someone else, that they could, do whatever I give them permission to do. Things like that. One thing also, using the same example, mother-in-law, is like, we had no idea what she wanted us to do. Like, we had some kind of conversations about what she'd like the end of her life to be. But we didn't really know, like, what does she want us to do? I mean, it's a really complex situation. We didn't really know at that point what was going on, like because as far as we knew, 2 days ago after Christmas, she was fine, and she just went home, and then someone just called us and says she's passed out and we can't communicate with her. So there's a lot of different things that you can do to save, you and your family from having to go through this really difficult thing that no one really wants to, go through. And then when the person dies, then there's a whole other stuff that you got to do. You got to, if you own a home, then you got to go and actually physically transfer ownership from the person that died to their heirs. And that can take time, and, it's, yeah.
So, a lot of my guests, the people that I work with, are entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
Actually would like to bring up, like, Megan Miller. You and her talked a little bit, because she was doing the creative dying and the death cafe, and just getting the individual to recognize that end of life is part of your life still, right? Even that death part is part of the cycle. And I think it's great that you guys are doing stuff to help prepare people. I think, as I had my daughter died of a fentanyl overdose, and that wasn't something we planned, and she didn't have an estate plan, and she didn't have a trust, and all those things that created lots of complications for us. So, I didn't think talking to a lawyer was going to be my longest first segment so far.
Sorry.
So, but it's super interesting. I mean, plus it was kind of two segments, right? It was before the estate planning and after that. Paul Shaheen, out listening to us right now, thinks you're doing really great work.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah. So what's something you do every damn day that kind of pushes your needle forward?
Yeah, so part of, like, what I've realized in the past, like, couple of years is, like, how it is about, basically being an entrepreneur rather than, I have a license to practice law, and, that's one thing, but it's about being an entrepreneur and how am I going to help serve the people that I want to help serve. And that's, it can be like, making sandwiches to, like, building cars to, like, and you can do whatever you want. And so what really pushes me is I created, what did I do? Let me see if I can find it here. Oh, okay. So, sorry, off camera real quick. So I have this thing right by me, and one of my mentors really challenged me to write down all my goals that I want. And I look at that every day. So, like, the goal of committing to running my own business, I look at that every day. When I achieve my goal, how I'm going to feel, what are my limiting beliefs that hold me back, and then I wrote something about how I want to make it completely user friendly. That's one thing so I'm always constantly looking at what's my client's role, what's their journey through all this, how can I help make that as easy as possible, because I already have a difficult practice area because people don't even think they even need it. So
Right.
so how do I make
Well,
it easy as possible?
it seemed coming into this is such a like a first world problem, like a white boy problem, you
Yeah.
know. And so if I started going up and down the street over here by the Fledge and saying, "Hey, you need estate planning,"
Yeah.
they're probably gonna whoop my ass. You know, get out of here.
Right.
But that's not true, and I think
You're
that
absolutely right.
this is an important problem that is probably having a bigger, you know, when we talk about generational wealth and we talk
Yep.
about equity, if
Yep.
you don't have an estate plan, you're going to pay more at the end of life, right?
Absolutely
So
right.
you're going to have less to pass down, so that equity's not going to build up. And if I'm a person of color, then I'm probably thinking I don't need this
Yes.
and I can't afford this and I don't have an estate or whatever. Not every person of color, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so it impacts that equity, that what we're trying to do on the justice side,
Mm-hmm.
we're hurting ourselves by not taking care of these things. So I think
Absolutely.
I will get on a bit of a high horse or whatever it's called,
Yeah.
a soapbox maybe,
Yeah.
and talk about this problem more.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
so
you're absolutely right, because that's how um a lot of rich people stay rich. That's how they do it. But that's not the case anymore, because there are ways of creating a trust where it's much easier than what it was, just because of technology. I mean, and being able to share knowledge with people, like, oh, you did it this way, well, how can we adapt it to make it more accessible to everybody. So yeah, I mean, that's one of those things, is like, how can I help people, how can I educate them? I also just, like, so every day, like, what do I do? So I try and write every day, just like on my own, like trying to just write about anything. Just
yeah,
working on a book, about being a lawyer, and so I'll just do that for like 45 minutes in the morning. Um, yeah, just trying to get rid of, like, limiting beliefs too. Like, that's one
oh
thing
yeah,
as an entrepreneur. Those are like the things that kill you. Like, like, it's um, quitting. The one thing one of my mantras that I've really learned in the last couple of weeks is, like, done is better than perfect. So, like,
oh
that,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
the perfection paradox of, like, oh, I need to make sure this is so good, and oh, I'm a lawyer, how am I going to look to people if something's not done correctly? Well, that's all bullshit. Like, so, like, you just need to get it out there and do it. Like, you're inspired by this thing, how do you just get it out there and share it with everybody? Don't worry
yeah.
about if there's you didn't capitalize the whatever. It's just stupid. It's just like, so just get it out there, and you know you've got this great idea. How do you refine it? How do you continuing to, like, refine what your target is? Like, my target is, I really want to help young families, people that are just like me. Really, I mean, because I've got an 8-year-old kid, so those are the people I really identify with, and I want to make sure that those are the people I'm really targeting with all my stuff. Now, if other people come along with it, like if they have family members that are older and need help, well, then I'd be glad to serve them too. But that's really, I want to hone in and be really as laser focused as I can on who my target, client is, and, like, even be like, give them a name, and, like, what do they do, what do they listen to, that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
really help them, so I can kind of connect with them, because it's easier when it's a criminal defense and, like, hey, have you been arrested? Like, okay, well, then they're gonna call me. But it's like, it's much more difficult when you're kind of interrupting people with estate planning, I think, is,
I
yeah.
I really loved what you said. I don't want to miss this gem about getting your your idea out there
Yeah.
if you're an entrepreneur, because so many people, they wait and they let
Yeah.
perfect get in the way of good, and they never move, and
Yeah.
we fail forward fast. We talk about that. Get out there, fail, figure out what's
Yeah.
working, what's not going to work, and then that failure turns into succeed or learn.
Yeah.
And that's where I have to pitch 99 problems, but a pitcher
Yeah.
of one. Friday, 9 a.m. Come out and pitch your idea.
Yeah.
But I also have been putting your estateplanningLawyer.com
Thank you.
is your website, and this will be in the comments or the description of the video. And when we post it, we'll put things like this as well.
Yeah.
I think we need to do a neighborhood workshop on this, so I'll be contacting and thinking about that with you. So yesterday, Chris Pruitt was on, the happiest homeless person.
Yeah.
He has a question for you.
Cool.
And his question was, does being a lawyer give you an endless supply of material for being a comic?
Yeah. It's I've got 8 years worth of, 14 years worth of material. I mean, it's just every day, and it's not me trying to be, I'm not, my point of view is just trying to point out kind of how absurd things are. I mean, like, it's like, I'm laughing because I want to keep from crying kind of thing. It's so difficult. So if anyone's ever seen me, like, I don't, my goal is not to put anyone down. I don't like to do that, but just trying to highlight how absurd certain things are. And that happens like all the time. I mean, like, there's, I had one guy I was on probation, and he comes up to me, he's like, "Hey Nick, man, I'm gonna take a drug test, kind of get some of your piss." And I'm like, "No, you're not gonna get any piss, man. Like, but it's got weed in it probably, so that's not gonna help you." So, like, so it's just the absurdity of things like that, which is just like, kind of, how do you, just trying to point out how, we all have things that are, weird in our jobs, and like, how do you just kind of deal with it, and how do you kind of come to terms with some things that you can't really change. And it's fun. I mean, I miss comedy. It's just like, it's one of those things where it's just not the same, doing in person.
You guys did some great shows. I loved your shows
thanks.
Here.
Hopefully we'll be able to do it sometime again.
Turd something? What was that?
Oh yeah. So that was like, that's my favorite piece of graffiti in Lansing, and it's over by Blimpie. It's on the they have that brick wall outside of Blimpie, and someone put turd clumps there. Wrote turd clumps with a Z, and that hit. I saw that when I was like in a really difficult part of my day, and I love it. Like, I would go to Blimpie because of that. Like, that's not their advertisement or marketing, but I would go there because I wanted to see it. And then what was the most beautiful thing about that is like, Blimpie was like, "Oh no, we have to paint over it," and then then they painted over it, and then someone wrote over it again. And I want to know who wrote it, because I want to meet Turd Clumps. I want to meet them.
All right. If you're Turd Clumps and you're listening, please reach out to us.
Yeah.
So tomorrow we've got Miss Nikita has undercover beauty studio.
Yeah.
And what question would you like to ask her through me?
I would like to, especially with a beauty studio, I would like to know, like, what challenges has she run into running a beauty studio during COVID? I would like to know that.
Yeah. A lot of executive orders that affected her and all that. Yeah. So I will definitely ask that question, and I bet you she has a long list of things to say. Yeah. But I'll turn that on you. What's COVID done to you, your business, your comedy, anything?
So with estate planning, like, it has completely transformed everything. And like, it was either like, am I going to shut down and just not do this, or what do I have to do to adapt? And I'm just like, I'm not the kind of person that's going to fail. Like, I will do whatever it takes all the time to just try and succeed. And like, so like, I transformed everything online. So like, I had to adapt how I did things. I was mailing out stuff to people and have a mailing bag. Like, I don't think that's really responsible. So I put everything online. And to be honest, like, it's really just this idea, what we go through in the shutdown and all this kind of stuff. It made me way more successful because I was able to streamline everything and make it really easy for people. And that's something that, you can either sit and cry about it, and be like, oh my God, this is terrible. What are we going to do? Or it's like, what do we do to succeed? I mean, like this is, we can't change it. And so either we just have to find a way to adapt. And that's what's really been, what I really tried to focus on doing. I mean, there are times when I was just like so angry and like, but you're not going to do it's get that out and then get back to focusing on what it is that you do. And that's really helpful for me.
In March and April, we all thought we were going to die.
I know.
Right?
I know.
Did that help your business? I mean, I don't mean to be morbid, but
no, I mean, it did. I had more clients, in that month, than I had ever being a lawyer. And I was at my house in my basement, and I didn't think that was possible. And, it really proved to me that, like, wow, if I can do this in my basement, how can I, if I just keep working at this is going to be, I can help more people. And that's my goal. It's like, how can I automate things? How can I make things, easy for everybody? How can I scale my business? So those are the things that I'm working on now, like giving webinars and stuff. So it's funny you mentioned that. I'd be glad to do that. And so, yeah, that's
all right.
Well,
you have certainly proved that lawyers are entrepreneurs, if anybody ever doubted that. I mean, from the pivot that you've done to the innovation you've brought to your customers, to being resilient through this time, to recognize the problems that need to be solved. I'm really proud to know you, Nick.
Yeah, thanks. Same here, Jerry. I'm always blown away by like how much great you can bring to the community, and like, yeah, I'm always supporting everything that you're doing. So yeah.
So we got some work we got to do together on this subject.
For sure.
So thank you for being on the show.
Yeah,
I just want to remind, I'll give you a second, everybody that 99 Problems But a Pitch Ain't One is this Friday at 9 a.m. Every Damn Day airs every damn day at 2 p.m. And Nick, I interrupted you there, but would you like to take us out here?
Yeah, you can check out my comedy at Comedian at Law on Instagram, and then I've got a Facebook page. There's some videos and stuff there. Yeah, you can check out Your Estate Planning Lawyer, and my Facebook page on my website is Leydorf Law Firm, and yeah.
All right.
Thanks so
and
much.
I'll put all those links in the descriptions, and start reaching out to Nick, everyone.
All right.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Thanks.